What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is Gerard. How do you say your last name?
Abajian.
Bam! No edits. Abajian. He is the co-founder and co-owner of Jake Wyatt Cigars. You guys go check him out on Instagram.
That's what I'm doing right now.
And social. So, Gerard, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
It's an honor. This is really cool.
Thank you. Let's dive right in.
Absolutely.
So, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you're at now.
Oh man, it's a long story, but I'm Armenian, and during the Ottoman Empire, my grandfather, I guess I never met him. He went to Lebanon, and so that's where my dad was born. That's where I was born, in Beirut, Lebanon. And in the 80s and the 70s, it was just straight warfare, right? So whenever bombs would drop, me and my sister would be like, "Yeah, no school tomorrow," you know. I'd just be so happy. Like we were like, "Okay, wow. keep bombing, so we don't have to go to school tomorrow." That's just kind of the life we had. But you know what was a bummer? It was like we didn't have postal service, phone lines didn't work. You know, sometimes you don't have water running through your faucets, no electricity, so you have to study under candlelight, things of that nature. You have to wait in line for bread. You have to have dad leave the car overnight in line so you can get fuel the next day because the line is so long because there's no petroleum being brought in. It was crazy, right? So my parents were like, we're gonna move, and so long story short, we're here. We moved to Costa Mesa in 1987, and I was jazzed. I'm like, dude, I'm going home to like Knight Rider, Spider-Man, Batman, Superman. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like all these like MacGyver, and you know, and so yeah, we landed in the land of like the promise, and it was a lot of fun in the beginning, and then the language barrier was really hard. I grew up, speaking Armenian at home. Lebanon, they speak Arabic, I didn't like Arabic, but I had to learn it. I mean, I spoke it really well, but just in school, it's like backwards. The alphabet's crazy. It's hard. And then it was a French colony, so I went to an all-boys Catholic French school, and so we come here, and here it's like really free. And I came from a well-to-do family in Lebanon, so there was a little bit of like a chip on my shoulder. So some of the guys here were like, "Who are you, dude?" So it was just full-on kind of like button heads with some of the guys because I also didn't understand the ways, and I didn't know how to speak English.
How old
and they're
kind
of like making fun of me. Next thing you know, I'm getting bullied, and just kind of really got really bad all through high school. It was never really a lot of fun. And then because of that, and I don't have any aunts or uncles or grandparents around. I don't really have any.
What's just your immediate family?
It was just me, my mom, and my dad, and then my sister. So it's all four of us, and it's like they're trying to figure it out to themselves as well. They don't speak really good English. Yeah. You know, my dad's trying to like just make ends meet. My sister hates it. She was older than me, and she's just not having fun. So I, unfortunately, I got into heavy. Drugs and alcohol right off the bat, very young.
In high school?
Yeah, like at the age of 15, something like that.
Okay.
I didn't really finish high school. Started hanging out on the streets, hanging out here in Santa Ana. I mean, just really getting really bad. Did a couple stints in jail. And I'm not around. I'm not even home. My parents are really like, I haven't spoken to my parents in a while. I'm just out on the streets and hanging out with the not do-gooders, And so I did everything that any tough guy does. I picked up the phone and called mommy one day from a payphone. I was just sucked up. I was seeing shadows, and I was hiding out, and it was really bad, because I was able to get my way out of a raid, right? So the raid happened in the neighborhood where I was hanging out at, and I was able to swindle my way out of it when the raid was happening. And when I was hiding out, that's when it just got really bad. I was just like in this apartment, this guy's house, and my uncle came, and he picked me up after I made that phone call to mommy, like every tough guy does. And my uncle opened up to me. And I didn't know that he was a party animal. I'm like, here I am 19 years old, just thinking, like the world stinks. Mm-hmm. And my uncle opens up to me. He's like, look, dude, you got to learn how to have a job. I understand you like to party. There's nothing wrong with partying, but you need to get life on track. And he kind of taught me how to become a functioning alcoholic or drug addict, whatever. Well, that didn't work out very well, Yeah, I got myself out of the gutters and whatever. And I found myself still not enjoying life, because I'm trying to party and I'm trying to hold together this job. Well, partying and working don't really mix together, you know what I mean? And I'm in car sales. I'm doing really well in car sales, but I don't have the guts to move out of my parents' house because I don't know if I can rely on myself to go pay rent and do the things I need to do to be a grown man to get out of mommy and daddy's house. So I'll just leech on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then and if I get fired, I don't care. I still have a place to live.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what happened because I was, an IV user. It was really bad. And it's just terrible, And then,
but when you say bad, what do you mean? Specify on bad. What does bad mean to you? Like, I want people to really understand, like your story and your journey.
Okay, so it's bad as in sense of I'll be in a showroom floor and we have an area where we can sit down where customers can't see me, and I'm nodded out over there in the showroom floor, just like nodded out. You know what I mean? Because I'm high. You know? And my manager's not saying a word because my numbers look good. So I'll work really, really, really hard and I just dip. You know what I mean? Because I need to get fixed right. You know? And then also bad in the way I behave amongst my friends and my fellows and my coworkers. I'm just not a nice guy, and people just put up with me because, because we put up with people. You know what I mean? We feel sorry for them, whatever. And all I can think of is just I need to get what I need to get, and all I can think about is about myself. So if you're a prospect for a car, I'll do the show and dance just so I can sell a car, but I really don't care about you. I don't care what you do for a living. Do you have money for me or not to buy a car? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even care if you show up with your kids. I have no conscience at all. You know what I mean? It's just darkness.
Yeah.
And that's just how I lived my life. I just never trusted anybody. All I care is about myself. Very selfish and self-centered, to the point where I can't even meet a woman. That's just how bad it is, like just bewildered, straight savage. Like it says in the Bible, behave like animal. I was an animal, you know what I mean? And people can see that. But I'm not aware of it at this time. I'm not aware of any of this. I'm just so blinded by this darkness that I have that I think that's how the world is. And I'm going to make it because that's how I have to be to get to the top. If there is such a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a God. And through certain events, I found myself finding Alcoholics Anonymous. And at first I'm like, well, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict,
Yeah.
And I asked a lot of questions here and there. And for me, it worked. I know there's NA, there's whatever. But when I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, I saw a lot of professional people. And my dad was a very professional man. You know what I mean? Not necessarily in business, but in just the way he carried himself. He always carried himself with integrity, character. He has his own flaws, but that is what attracted me when I went to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a noon meeting, and it was men and women during their lunch break from work, from corporate America. And I was like, that's what I want in my life. I want to learn how to have that. The car, the registration, the house, the marriage. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to do that. I start something and then it just falls apart. I never finish anything,
Yeah.
Didn't finish high school. Don't know nothing about education. I've never been to a fraternity. I didn't do the college thing, I just knew like good drugs, bad drugs, You have something I want, either I'm going to, use force of some sort of weapon or get my friends along to get along. You know what I mean? Like, it was terrible. Steal a car, hijack a car, carjack. It didn't matter. I just want it, right? But to do it the way these professionals were doing it, and that's when I learned the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step program, and it revolutionized my entire life. And I got together with a guy by the name Neil. I'm not going to talk about it. And this guy, what we call an AA, is a sponsor. So a guy that guides you through the steps, and he becomes a mentor. And God sends angels, man. I mean, this was like definitely heaven sent. You know, God was really looking out for me, because Neil and I are now business partners. So Jake is his son, and then Wyatt is my son. So Neil was he had his issues, whatever, and that's his story. And he was my sponsor, and he still is my sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous. But we've come so close, and he's always kind of became like the big brother I never had, and I've always longed for a big brother. And Neil, his story is, you know, he had some troubles, whatever. He got sober at the age of like 15. And then he went on to play baseball. He played AAA for quite a while. So when I met him, he had just come off an injury. He had a really bad injury. He played as a catcher.
Okay.
And so he started teaching me not only the 12 Steps Alcoholics Anonymous, but how to think like an athlete, you know. And he started giving me books and things of that nature. And at this time, my dad's in the cigar business, and I'm kind of helping my dad as I'm getting sober. And then we opened a few stores here in Orange County. But it was really boring for me, you know, a cigar, like I'm 20, you know, I want to be out, nightlife, you know, hanging out, and I want to do something more exciting. And I was talking to Neil about it one day, and he was like, well, what do you want to do? I go, it'd be cool to be a cop. He's like, what? I go, what do you? I go, just because the chasing, the kick down the door, grabbing guys, wrestling them, handcuffing them. You know what I mean? Just like, it just sounds awesome. Guns and running, you know what I mean? Chasing, just hopping walls, and you know what I mean? That just sounds rad.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I don't know if that's such a good idea with your rap sheet. Probably not going to happen. He's like, why don't you think about firefighting? I'm like, dude, that sounds kind of boring, sitting in a firehouse all day, you know? He's like, talk to Eric. Eric is his older brother. And Eric was a firefighter at the time. He is now the chief of Burbank Fire Department. Yeah. And I called Eric. I'm like, hey, Eric, I want to be a firefighter. He's like, Gerard, I saw you help move my mom into Vic's house, which is her now husband. He's like, dude, you have great work ethic. Go to Santa Ana College. Good luck. Click. I was like, and Neil goes, you better not even bother him until you really make some serious strides in your commitment to want to do this. Because my brother's not the kind of guy that's going to really like help you tiptoe. It's like either you're in or you're out, and you become a man about it. And so Alcoholics Anonymous and firefighting really turned me into a man. Not man as a macho, but a man as in like facing my fears and learning how to fight within. Like, so awesome that this podcast is called that.
Yeah.
And that was when I learned the fight within myself, because, you know, having a rap sheet, not being from this country, not that I'm blaming nepotism, but it helps when your father's been a firefighter and your grandfather's been a firefighter and your uncle's a firefighter, your brother's a firefighter, and you have been an explorer and you've learned how to become a reserve and a cadet. So you have some sort of, you know, a good resume since you were 15, because this is something you've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
Here I am 30. You know what I mean? And I have no high school education. Sorry, I had a GED, but no college. Like my resume is like sales guy, server. I like traveling. I like cats and dogs. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a really professional resume. I don't even know how to do resumes. You know, I know nothing. You know. So I went to Santa Ana College and I started taking the classes, and then learning to really, and then even working out. I was like a sissy. Like, oh, my side hurts. You know. And Neil was like, dude. I remember one time he started getting me to do spin class. This place is called Fixed Gear, which is in Costa Mesa. It's a 90-pound wheel on this stationary bike. The seat is welded down so you don't get to sit down. This is like real hardcore spin class, not 24-hour fitness. Oh, girls, let's go. It's like 90-pound wheel. There's no brake. Once you get going, the momentum of that 90-pound wheel gets going, and then you move to the rhythm of the beat, left, and then there's certain songs that you pick, and it will go within that workout. And
cool.
there's no sitting down, so your legs start burning, and it's an hour class. So it gets to a point where it's mind over, like, what do you call it? Out of body experience, mind over matter.
Yeah.
Like literally, because I'm doing it and I'm getting out of cadence, and I'm not like. And there's only like 5 of us. It's me, Neil's heading leading the class, and a couple other guys he sponsors. Dennis is a surfer. This guy is a skater, whatever. They're a lot more athletic than I am. And I'm like off cadence. And you're looking at the mirror and you go off the energy of your friend's cadence. That's how you go. You keep up the momentum. And I'm not doing that. And Neil's like, dude, you're really jacking up the class. And I'm like, dude, you're going too serious. He's like, no. If you can't do this, please don't come tomorrow.
Dang.
I'm like, what do you mean, dude? Just relax. It's like spin class.
Yeah.
He got really serious. Like, he almost got in my face because he's known me so long. It wasn't just about the cadence. It was the other things in life. Like, I'm sick and tired of, like, 1 minute you like this chick, 1 minute you don't like this chick, 1 minute you're a surfer, next minute you're a skater, or you're GQ. Now you want a convertible. No, you want a truck. Now you want a 4Runner. Now you're escape. Like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, where's your fight within you? Like, you know what I mean? And those are the kind of things that really taught me how to be a man, like who I am and who I am not. And too many times I looked at what I'm not and I'm going to become that so you'll like me. And these are the things that led me to drugs and just not knowing who I am. And through all that, eventually I got to spin, keep up cadence. And I started learning to fight within myself, and pursuing that firefighter gig was, it took 8 years to legitimately be on the engine and running 911 calls. It took 8 years, and through that process is how I met my wife, how I was able to shed a lot of my skeletons and my demons. And you and I met at church,
Yeah.
And at first I didn't know who you are, but as we got together with the groups, the Monday night groups, it was just really opens up my eyes that I'm not alone in this fight. There's so many other of my brothers that are going through a fight of their own.
Yeah. And
if there's anything I can do is just love on them.
Yeah.
Love on each other. So when I was with the fire department, my dad passed away. He is now living in Florida. He passed away. My mom's there. And that's when I came up with Neil. And I was like, hey, bro, I need your help. It's like, you've always needed my help. And I was like, I got the cigar thing. And he was trying to get out of the loan business. It was just too cutthroat a little bit. He was kind of sick and tired of that cutthroat kind of deal. He was like, oh, let me look into it. There was other things that kind of made sense for him to look into it. And so we did. We embarked online at martocigars.com, and we started selling cigars online and learning that. And then through that, we started learning about that you can do exclusive with some of these manufacturers. They're more boutique. So we started doing more business with like small boutique companies. So today you have your beer and you have your craft beers, right? And then so same thing in the cigar business. You have like the craft boutique guys, and doing an exclusive with a cigar company called Sinistro. It ended up taking us to the Dominican Republic. And when we were there, that's when one thing led to another, and we opened up our own factory, and then we came up with our own cigar brand called JakeWyattCigars.com is the website. Yeah. But Jake Wyatt Cigar Company is the name of the company, and we have numerous of cigar brands under that trademark or the brand, I should say.
So you were in the fire department, and how long were you working as a firefighter?
So I did all in all 10 years.
Wow.
In the fire department.
Took you 8, you did 10.
Yeah.
But you gained life knowledge.
Oh my gosh.
For sure. Yeah.
Big time.
I wanted to throw that out there before you keep asking. I'm looking at one of the websites.
So much of you guys asking me questions, I'm like taking it over.
I know, right before you got in, he's like, I do better with questions.
Yeah, like, you're an effective communicator.
One question.
Yeah.
No, you've been great though, because the whole point, and we say this all the time. I say it all the time. Like the whole point of the podcast is this, right? Like you're getting to be able to share your story. And people are probably getting tired of me saying it, but it's so true. And I'm going to probably say it every freaking episode. But it's your story being able to help someone, right?
Yeah.
Like you said to Manny, you guys met in a group, but so many people deal with so many different things, right?
Yes.
Like I've never dealt with an addiction,
Mm.
but I have also dealt with needing to be the best, which is technically you could
It's some
say is a
sort of
form of an addiction,
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yeah.
Everything relates back to a form of an addiction of some sort. If you
Yeah.
want to be addicted because you want to be liked, you want to be the coolest person, you want to have the nicest things, you want to be the richest person in the room. All of
Right.
these things are driven by a form of addiction in the sense of like our pride,
Mm-hmm.
right? So listening to you talk through all this stuff, it is something that's very eye-opening. Just because I've never dealt with a substance addiction or a whatever another form of addiction doesn't mean that I don't have my own problems.
Right.
Versus Manny's
Mhm.
problems
Yeah.
versus your problems versus the 75 employees that I have's problems. Like
Mm.
every person has their own problems and we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And I think that perspective that you gain through the fire department and through AA and stuff like that, that's something that's so valuable.
It really is, because even yesterday I stumbled upon something that has really opened up my eyes. And it's not every day we get these moments of clarity. Yesterday, you know, I have a friend I've known for a very long time. And last year we got somehow reacquainted because I love mountain biking. And so it was a group of us. And I saw him there. Long story short, he's like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you like in 20 years." And last time he saw me, I was pretty jacked up, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And he's like, "I've been struggling, you
Mm.
know, with all substance abuse," and he didn't look too good. And I was so happy to see him, and he's been interested in recovery. I don't. I'm like total abstinence kind of a guy. You know what I mean? If
Mhm.
I'm gonna do something, there's just the school I come from. It's like very black and white kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And for him, it's been a bit more of a colorful journey,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really approve of that. So I go into judgment. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And the way I perceive him, if I would go to war, I wouldn't bring him.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than looking at it, wait a minute, God put him in my life. I haven't seen this guy in 20 years.
Mhm.
And it inspired him to change his life and me love on him. So yesterday was basically his year anniversary. And I was like, no, you're not
You're
totally
not-
abstinent, bro.
yeah.
Like, you're not, in my eyes, no. So I called a couple of friends of mine. In 22 years in this recovery, like, I've never dealt with a close friend that's more colorful in his sobriety.
Mhm.
It's either you're this or you're not. And some of
Yeah.
the guys were like, well, dude, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I know that doesn't make sense, but they're like, there are people that are suffering from cancer in sobriety. There are people that are suffering from mental illness in sobriety. So some individuals do need to take some medication, or they take substance like THC or CBD or whatever it is. And if he has a medical condition that he needs to take care of that, we have to, you know, give each other some grace and have some, you know, dignity. And I wrestled with it a little bit. And then the more I looked into scripture and prayer, I was like, I'm missing the whole point here.
Mm.
I'm so judgmental that I can't even love on my friend that saw inspiration within me.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm looking for, is me to help and inspire people. So if I can't love and embrace the fight within myself, how can I embrace and love the fight within yourself? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was like, dude, there's some peeling of the onion that I need to do. And I did that yesterday and this morning. My wife was, you know, she's in recovery too. She gave me
Yeah.
some things to read. And I was like, and, you know, we were talking about Shakespeare, you know, the world's nothing but a stage, and we're just mere players in it all. And I was like, dude, we're all just trying to get along. We're all just trying to make it.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I called him today. I said, hey, bro. And it got a little emotional because
Mhm.
2 days ago, it was Saturday, we were cleaning the trails of the mountain biking area. And he told me, hey, in 2 days, I'm going to have a year. I'm like, yeah, cool. I didn't hug him. I didn't say good job. I'm like, you look so much better than when, because he was on fentanyl.
Mhm.
I'm like, you're not doing it anymore. Look at you, bro. You got color back in your skin. You're walking, you're smiling, your hair's combed. you're so good, and it is. And I couldn't be there because of my judgment,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So really, kind of, so I called him and I told him that I go, I've been judging you this last year because you're not doing it the way I think you should do it, and I'm so wrong. I'm acting like I'm God, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so wrong for me to do that. I go, I should have given you a hug. He's like, bro, it's all good. You know, I look up to you. I love you. He's like, and he started crying. I started crying because like I miss what God's putting in front of me. You
Yeah.
know, it's like I give you a gift, G, and this man could have been dead
Yeah.
because of what I gave you. Is like share it
Yeah.
and let me handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But the difference is you recognized it.
That's what's the beauty about it. Yes.
That's the
And that's the tough part is humbling myself and say, hey, bro, I've been judging you.
yeah.
And he's like, yeah, dude. And we talked about it. He's like, it hurt me so bad.
Mm.
He's like, as if my, you know, he's Middle Eastern. He's like, you know, when our parents, you know, they don't really talk to us, they just beat us.
Yeah.
That's just the culture. He's like, it felt like when you hurt me by what you said to me, you know, it was something that transpired between him and I, and that's kind of created that gap, and then that's where the judgment started. So when he did that to me, it felt like the first time my dad kind of slapped me when I was a kid. Because that's how far back it went in my like that, you know, that injury, that scar tissue of emotion that I've had. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love you, buddy. He's like, I love you too. So it's like, thank God I recognized it.
100%.
You know,
And that's something that is unique to your story, because you went through it. And again, I struggle with this too, and I think just like not just because we're men, but some of it does stem from that. But you know, like my first several years in business, like I would never be able to admit when I was wrong, right?
it's hard.
It was like, and it was just something that I would never admit, right? And as I've gotten older and matured and progressed and stuff like that, I've constantly have to like remind myself, hey, like take a step back, like don't be so quick to respond, you know, listen first, understand, and respond to actually like respond, not respond to
Right.
just hear my own voice.
Yes.
And you know, acknowledging that and being able to own it is something that's so huge, and probably will mean more to that guy than if you would have just accepted it the first time, because now you're showing vulnerability
True.
and
That's the beauty,
apologizing,
yeah.
right?
And
And-
you know, go ahead.
No, you go.
And you know where the best place I've learned these things is from my wife. You know, is because it's not just responding to just hear myself. It's to really respond because I'm listening to what she's trying to say to me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And having children really makes me check my motives, like, you know, how I talk, how I conduct myself, how I behave, how I treat them, because they pick up everything we say like a sponge. You know
Yeah.
what I
Mhm.
mean? And you know, really, church has done a tremendous, I don't know what the word is, revelation, a tremendous amount of work within me. I rededicated my life over to Jesus Christ over 10 months ago. I've always been a believer, but to really follow a real regiment, not to be like soldier-like, but to truly give of my heart
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and really like surrender, was about 10 months ago, and it has really opened up my eyes to the point where I was able to call my friend today and be like, hey, I'm sorry I've been like this. You know, I didn't know how to do things like that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know how to fight within myself and wrestle that within me. You know what I mean? Like, I really thought fighting is outer fights, you know, outer experience, physical, showing I'm macho, fighting my tears back, you know what I mean? And fighting my old age, you know what I mean? It's like, no, it's within me and within my heart, within my emotion, within my soul. Once I figured that out, I'm able to find joy, you know? And then once you find it, it's very attractive. And like people, honestly, Manny, you asked me to come to this podcast. It was like, it's an honor, like a real honor to be here.
Mm-hmm.
People weren't calling me. You know what I mean? There's a time in my life people were not calling me. Like, we don't want to be around this guy, dude. His energy
Yeah.
just stinks.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why I love the name of this show is awesome, because I get that.
Yeah.
And then when I watched some of your stuff, I was like, dude, this guy is like, he's a fighter. And I saw some of the plaques that you have out front with the military. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, there's a story here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Within you guys' podcast.
Yeah. And then it solidifies why we do what we do, you know? It is because everyone has a story to tell. And it sounds cheesy and cliche, but we've been very fortunate to have, you know, big name people, big name fighters, big name entrepreneurs, and then people starting out and local people that who aren't really known or on that platform yet.
Me.
Well, no, I mean, no, not just you. I mean, I wouldn't put you there, but you know, there's a uniqueness to everyone's journey.
That is so true.
You know, like yes, you could be battling, for instance, alcoholism, and this person could be battling alcoholism, but it looks different, and the perspective is different. And like I battle a lot of pride. And going to the group and talking to Ben, and I'm really fortunate that I've been able to have people in my life that care, you know, and are open, and are open book. You know, we've gone through stuff with my wife, or hey, how do you do this in business? Like, he's one phone call away. You know?
Yeah.
And I've always been like, man, I feel like a burden. I don't want to. Like,
I know that
you had
feeling.
reached out to me over the weekend, and you're like, hey man, just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. And I have another buddy of mine who we actually had on the show. He reached out. He's going through something similar that I'm going through, and he's like, hey bud, like, how are you doing? I'm good. I'm all right.
It's hard.
Yeah, because I don't want to. If I really open up and I'm really gonna let you know how I'm doing, like, you're gonna have to sit down for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, and like they have lives, they got kids, they got schedules. I don't want to be a burden. Like, no, I'll figure it out. You know, because that's how I was raised. Is you just figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, and then you fall back so much, not just in your faith, but with specific things, you know, financially, you know, relationally, like you fall back. I am the worst at texting someone, hey man, happy birthday. You know,
I'm pretty bad at that too.
Like, happy birthday.
The phone becomes like 600 pounds. All of a sudden,
like,
right?
hey, let's get together. Let's just go have some coffee.
Yeah.
Like, I used to see him all the time, and now I don't. You know, and I'm like, man, like, I miss those times without being cheesy.
Right.
But like, I miss those times. Man, I used to see Ben all the time. I could say, what's up to him? We can literally go down the street and go have lunch and just talk and like just learn from each other, just be with each other. And I talked about it last night a little bit, where it's like the enemy distracts you so much with like, hey, you're having marital issues. Hey, you're having financial issues. You got to work more. You got to get another customer. You got to be busy. You got to finish this project. And then you're so focused on these things, not that they're bad, but then you start not focusing on all the other things, on your friendships, your relationships, things that matter. Like, they did a study one time, and I forget what schools. I know they're big name, like Ivy League schools, and they're interviewing people that were on their deathbed. And they said, what's the one thing? The one commonality was that they didn't get to spend enough time with their family. Yeah. There's people that were extremely successful. There's people that weren't. But the one common theme was that they wish they would have spent more time with their family. Same
common denominator.
Yeah. And I don't want to get stuck in that. You know, we're all chasing whatever we're chasing, whatever we think success is, and however we define it. But there's so much more to life than that. Like, that's all I was worried about, and that's all I've been worried about. Not worried, but that's been on my head. Like, I wake up in the mornings, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then I got to figure out a way to make money. That's like my thought process, and I'm like, that's so bad, you know. And to go in with that focus and just be like, this is all you're doing. You start pushing those things away. Like, I watch my daughter's on Tuesdays and Fridays, where like I have them for most of the morning. And instead of spending time with them, I'm like, hey, you guys turn on a TV show, I'll feed you for breakfast and lunch. I'm going to go to the garage and work. Like, that is not healthy, because they're not going to be this age again. Right. They're not going to want to sleep with mom and dad again. Right. They're going to grow up and be like, hey,
I'm out.
See ya. Don't like my son does it sometimes where he's like, don't come to pictures for a dance. He's like, I don't want you there. He's like,
Right.
we're coming. Too bad. And it's like they're gonna get there one day,
Yeah.
And right now they have me wrapped around their finger, but it's cool, man. I appreciate you wanting to come on and opening up, and sharing, because we were talking a little bit before we started recording, where we've had guests that are like, hey man, no, I just want to talk about my adult life or my professional life. I haven't told my kids about this part of my life. And it's like, so for you to want to come on and open up is appreciated. And just know that people need to hear that story, no matter how many times.
We need each other. We really do.
Yeah,
really
100%.
And it's just so many of us. I remember when I was pursuing the fire, it was so hard, man. So hard. You have to be physically fit, which is like the easiest part, right? Being for a lot of us, if you're somewhat athletic, just keep going to the gym, eat right. But the mental and the spiritual aspect of it, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I used to go reserve anytime that I wasn't working, like Sundays or Saturdays. I'd go. It was actually the city of Santa Ana when they had the Santa Ana Fire Department. I was a reserve for them, and it's like hot. It's so hot, middle of July. Everybody's at the beach, and I'm as a reserve. You don't go hang out in an air conditioned room with the guys and watch TV.
Yeah,
you're like out there polishing the wheels and cleaning the toilets and making sure everything's tidy, and it's hot, and you're in full uniform. You can't take your shirt off. You can't be all sloppy. You have to be, just very paramilitant. You know what I mean? No Irish pennants. Your gig line has to be perfect. Your boots have to be polished. Like, I don't care what you're doing, Gerard. If you don't look spick and span, you're going to get reprimand. It's kind of like, it's very paramilitary. I don't care if you're messing with cobwebs. There shouldn't be any cobwebs on you. It should be where they belong, in the trash or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So it was like, and those are the moments where it was just like I had to deal with the fight within myself, and it's people that carry us to those moments. Me being able to be like, this is so hard. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get hired. I have friends that started with me and they never got hired. You just, sometimes you don't. Yeah. It's a really tough gig, but it is the talking to you, or I call you and I say, I don't know if I can do this. Hey, no, Manny, I know you, bro. I love you. God's got in store for you. You're going to make this happen. Don't you quit. So I'm sitting at home, and it was a TV show, I think Coach Carter or Get Carter. Not Get Carter.
The movie Coach Carter?
No. Hanging with Cooper. Sorry.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper. I don't know where I got Carter from. They're both started
basketball.
with C.
Both is like basketball.
So I think with Mr. Hanging Cooper, and I think it was like the last show of the last season was like the finale. And then once the show was over on TV, it was a quick monologue kind of interview that he came in the set, and he just looked at the camera and he said, if you have a dream, don't ever quit on your dream. And like, something along that line, he said, because I never did blah 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 blah, and here he is, he fulfilled his dream. Yeah. And I was like, I so needed to hear that, because I am trying to become a firefighter, and it's so hard, and I just never quit, that fight within me. And as I'm doing this though, I'm learning how to respond when I'm supposed to respond, the way I'm supposed to respond. Selfishly, because I know there's an end game for me to get hired. Yeah. But in reality, what's happening is I'm being developed and I'm being coached on how to have character. Being molded. You're being molded. And being molded, because if you want this end game, kid, it's not about just you getting what you want to get. You have to go through these things that's going to mold you to be a man. So when you get to that 911 call, you respond with the right bedside manner, and you're really caring for that individual because you have life experience. So you know what it is when a child is coughing or choking, because life is precious now. Like, one minute I'm nodding out in a showroom floor because I'm an IV user. Next minute I'm caring for a child because I know what life is and how precious it is. Yeah. So I went from like just this dark, very selfish, self-centered, to where yesterday I'm calling my friend. I'm telling him, I'm sorry I was judgmental.
Went from one extreme to the other.
It just like blows my mind, man.
So you took a very unique, interesting turn. You know, it took 8 years to get there. You do it for 10, and then you quit to go start a cigar company.
Yeah.
Where did that switch come from?
So, because my dad was always in the cigar business, when he went to Florida, he left a store behind here in California, and he managed. And I had an employee that was running it when I was on shift. Whenever I was off shift, I would go and I would do the bookkeeping, and I would do the inventory and reordering, things of that nature, while he just ran the shop. Well, when my dad passed away, I had to really take a look at the business in Florida, because he had a shop in Florida. And how's my mom going to run that store? You know what I mean? And how am I going to support my mom? I don't want to be working overtime for the rest of my life to take care of my mom. You know, do I move her here? Do I not move her here? I don't know what to do, you know? And that's how I kind of approached Neil. And it was, you know, a string of events that led to me and Neil talking about it. It was really a divine intervention through God, how it all happened. And then Neil and I were like, all right, so let's try online. So we go online, and then in order to get the online business going, I tap into Facebook. And I started seeing that there's this thing called Facebook groups. So there's mountain biking groups, there's all sorts of groups. There's cigar groups. I'm like, I can chime into this because I know about cigars, because my dad taught me. So then I started seeing that there are cigar groups that you can post things for sale. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, dude, the world is my oyster. So I started posting cigars, like 5-packs, humidors, things of that, lighters, cutters, on Facebook. And then I was not getting any responses. And I was like, of course it's not going to work. And nothing ever works for Gerard. Just no. And I was like, no, I'm going to fight within. I'm going to refresh my post. Because I remembered a lot of people on Craigslist, if they didn't sell something, they refresh it. And I learned, my buddy was in appliance business. And I was like, and there, I didn't understand what he was saying, but somehow, some way that day it clicked. I was like, oh, refresh. And I learned that when you bump means it just, you put a comment, it brings your post back up to the top because there was a fresh comment. And I learned that from online forums, because I was a car guy. So whenever you're trying to sell something on a forum, like your set of rims or whatever, if you put bump, it goes back up to the top of the thread.
It's like new activity.
Yeah, exactly. So I started doing that, and then I started gaining a following on Facebook. And then as I started gaining a following, now I'm at the firehouse, and I'm more interested in my posts than I'm interested in anything that's going on with the firehouse. Like, I don't want to watch a movie during lunch. After lunch, we all sit down and we watch a movie together, and we knock out and fall asleep. I'm like, I'm not sleeping. I'm actually going to go to work. And I come across Gary Vaynerchuk.
Gary V.
This is like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And then like he starts talking about how he took his dad's business, Wine Library, from like $2 million to like $50 million company. And he's talking about, you know, it's a long-term goal. It's, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he's like, if you have this, you should be able to do your dream job. I was like, oh, okay. And I just went crazy to the point the guys are like, dude, you're not even like training really, or I'm like, you know, just doing what I'm doing. And then the calls start becoming like, oh man, I can't wait till I get back to the station so I can do what I need to do. You know what I mean? And then I found out that many of us in the fire service love our job because it's stable, but it allows us to do what we really want to do.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's a platform.
It's
for some people.
If you're an entrepreneur-minded guy, you know what I mean? Other guys are like, no, I want to promote within because I want to make a real big difference, which is amazing, right? Because it's a real commitment, and it's amazing. These guys are, I mean, I commend them for that. And at the same time, I was starting to see like, okay, I have child number 2 now, and I'm working all this overtime, but I'm not home. And when I come home, my kids want me. But as soon as I step in that front door from like a 3-day shift, it's kind of weird. It's like, who is this stranger? You know what I mean? So it takes them a day to warm up. And then it's only So the next 2 days are great, and then Dad's gone again for like another 2-3 days, and that cycle just starts all over again. So I'm away more than I'm really there. So I'm really there maybe like 6 days out of the month, like really there.
Yeah.
And so I saw this was a way for me to get out. And one of the guys, he said, take a year of absence without pay and see if you can pay your bills without the fire department.
Oh, wow.
So I did that. So I put in a 1 year leave without pay and see if I can hack it, you know, and I haven't gone back. So I turned in my papers after that year was over. I went in to HR. I said, yeah, I'm leaving. They're like, are you sure you can take another year? I said, you know, if I take another year, I'm not really closing the door on this. And I really want the blessing. And I know it's risky and it's crazy. I'm doing this because this is like everybody wants to be a firefighter. Like,
That's cool though that they give you that option.
Yeah, it was really cool. Looking back, maybe I should have, you know, for that stability. But the thing is that I also come from, you know, learning life is not always about taking. So I was like, I'm taking up a spot for somebody else that's dying to become a firefighter. You know what I mean? I'm taking money from the fire department. Even though I'm not on payroll, it still costs them money because insurance, just the liability, you know, it costs them money. So I said, yeah, I'm going to shut the door on this and then just walk away. And, you know, that was about a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow. So it's recent.
Almost 2 years now, yeah.
So you've been doing Cigar full-time 2 years? Full-time?
Yeah, now back, full-time.
That's crazy.
Because
that's awesome.
We were flying back and forth to the Dominican so much on my days off. So even if I did come home, now I have 2 jobs. You know what I mean? I was going to the Dominican, so my kids were hardly seeing me. You know? Yeah. So that's why I had to quit the fire gig. And I got a little bit. Yesterday was day 1, man, of me working out. I came home and I went jogging. I did some burpees and jump rope, and I did laps up and down the street. I did about a 20-minute workout. I haven't worked out like in 2 years. I mean, other than mountain biking, but mountain biking is not really a workout. It's fun. So
it's still a work. I guarantee you, I couldn't mountain bike right now. I'd rather go lift.
You fall off.
Oh yeah, the bike might break.
I think to kind of re-summarize everything, it's really cool. Like you have such a unique story, right? Like I love referring back to, and I use this term loosely, but it's powerful because people understand it. Because people understand it in the world. Like you, quote unquote, like were able and are continuing to pursue the American dream.
Yeah.
Right. Your parents left a place that most people will never understand, right? Like everyone thinks America's so awful and we have it so bad here. Like if you think that, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at that camera. Go somewhere else.
It's pretty amazing in this country, bro.
Go somewhere else. You know,
we have Disneyland here,
right? And that's the thing is people are so naive, right? Is America perfect? Absolutely freaking not.
The whole world isn't perfect.
But the world and those places where you grew up and the places I've been and all of that, you really don't understand how good we have it here. So you quote unquote have the pursuit of the American dream. You had an addiction that controlled your life that you are now in control of, and you are owning that, and you are able to be used in other people's lives. And you were a firefighter that is already hard to accomplish, and now you're a business owner. Like I think that's
even harder.
Yeah, you have such a unique, really awesome story, though.
Oh, thank you, man.
That's, again, I'm going to say it again, but that's the point of this podcast, right? Like, to share, maybe someone that's listening, maybe you have an addiction of some sort.
Yeah.
And you're just scared. Like, just go out and get help, you know? Ask a friend, ask a loved one, ask a random person online.
Yeah.
Just go out and get help.
You really can't find it.
It's there. We live in an age where, again, like, not just for business, the cell phone, but for a lot of other people. Yeah. And to people that feel like you're alone because you don't have family or friends, there's still help. And I think that's something that people need to fully like grasp. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your story.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's really cool to be here.
Yeah, it was awesome to hear. I've never met you, and a lot of this times it happens. Like sometimes like I'll bring a guest that Manny's never met, and sometimes Manny will bring a guest that I've never met. And it's such a cool thing because, you know, like I have friends now that Manny introduced me to that I talk to all the time because of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know him. Manny knew him.
You know what's the biggest trip right now? Just hit me. I've been to your coffee shop.
I know that's
Never in my wildest dream would you ever think like, I just randomly went to your coffee shop, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had coffee there, and I'm like drinking your coffee. And I'm like, this is good coffee. I like it. It's cool. It's really cool area. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's Old Town San Juan. It's beautiful.
and now
To
we're sitting
think
in-
like I'm in your podcast, like you know what I mean? Like you never know where life is gonna take you.
it's
Yeah.
Ever.
that is a fact.
And that's why I'm like a little bit more conscious of who I'm talking to, who I'm getting to know today.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because you just don't know. It's just you don't know.
You never know.
Never know.
You just gotta love on everybody, man.
That's crazy, bro.
So on that note, do you have
Yeah.
something else?
No, I was gonna say so. MardoCigars.com,
Is our retail, for cigars.
and then on Instagram you have Jake Wyatt Cigars.
Well, on Instagram, Mardo Cigars, we have it everywhere, right? Web,
Mhm.
online, Instagram, Facebook. That's our online cigar store where you can buy different brands. You can buy Oliva, Padron, Arturo Fuente, all these brands. Then we have our own brand, which you can buy there. Our own brand is Jake Wyatt Cigars, and it has its own website, Jake Wyatt Cigars. It's on Instagram, it's
Mhm.
on Facebook, things of that entity. And then the name of our factory is Casa Murabo. Casa Murabo is in Gurabo, Dominican Republic, and we make Jake Wyatt cigars in that factory.
Okay.
And then if anybody's interested in getting their own cigar, like celebrities, they sometimes want to make their own cigars, or
Mhm.
we make cigars for private entities as well. Or
So
if you want to come
crazy.
out with your own cigar brand, you're like, hey, I'm a millionaire now, and I want to come out with my own cigar, and then we'll just make a
Yeah.
cigar for you, and we package it, we go over design and whatever. We make a
So
cigar.
That's
crazy.
awesome.
It's
That's really
cool. And you guys have a really awesome social media. And we were talking about this off camera, so go follow him because the cigar and alcohol or tobacco and alcohol can be really tricky for
It
for
is.
branding and social
Yeah.
media purposes. So if
Yeah.
you are listening, go follow them, show them some love.
Thank you.
And thank you again for sharing,
No, man, this was fun.
Mr. Manny.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on, Ben. Another great episode.
Thank you.
And remember, guys, that everything was impossible until someone did it.
Amen.